The fourth and last part is about how can I configure things? That is, as an administrator, if I log on to gain collaboration as an administrator, then of course I have more permissions than a normal user. I have more functions here alone, more possibilities. I can go here and create users up here. That is, I was usually Tonak, who was a member of the CAD group and registered under the CAD group with this abbreviation, had an English interface, used the product Gain Collaboration Professional, and that was assigned to this user. This user belongs to the group. If you then look, the groups access the corresponding rules. Use the standard rule or the standard set of rules, if you like. You can define that here. The users of the CAD group have the possibility to create different documents, that is, the right to create documents. I can restrict or assign this for different users or also for different groups. Are SolidWorks or Inventor data allowed to be created? Is this a user who only has permissions for a ZW3D or for a ZW-CAD? Are the users allowed to create projects, articles, contacts, that is, system documents at this point? You configure these things here in the user administration, and with the rules, default, I can still say that the groups are allowed to do this and that. They are allowed to create data, they are allowed to change data, they are only allowed to read. I create all these things or manage them here in the user administration. I don't actually need to say safe, because I haven't changed anything. So, then I have the possibility, for example, to create new fields here. That means that if a client comes and says, okay, I want to have new fields in my database screen, then what we see here is more or less the standard solution. But the customers have the possibility to adapt things themselves. That means being able to add fields themselves in order to be able to map and manage them in my data screen. For example, here I have the job server. Access to the job server. I can define different job types here. Watermark status, for example, appears here. Various things can be set here, that is, these are jobs that are then controlled by us via workflows, that's what we call them, via scripts. Who is allowed to do these jobs at all? That can be restricted. We can say, for example, how many times something should be tried before we actually say, okay, I can't find a file because it has been physically deleted. Then it doesn't hang up in a loop like that forever, but I can say, okay, try that a maximum of 5 times and then it's good. So, here you can define jobs. With the job server, which is actually much more important, I can see here which jobs are currently pending. That means, for example, if I release a drawing, I go here and say, it doesn't matter if I do this or that, I'll change the status of the component at that point. Too bad, I blocked that. Then, right, I opened the file, then we'll do it right away with another file. It's not working on that one right now. Or I can go here and say, the file is open. I'll check it in again. Then we can do a job with it. So, release. Now it works, it's just no longer in progress. The things before are released. And what I actually wanted to show was that the job server has now received 2 jobs that are being processed. And when I look at it, it has been created. In the background, this drawing is now loaded again in ZW3D. The properties are updated. I'll go here. The 2 jobs are created, and it is actually already finished. Then there are still notifications here. That means that if a job gets stuck somewhere, then I can look here in the messages or notifications. Okay, which job was that? Do I want to start it again? Then I can select it. Here, however, both have run through without any problems. That is, one was updating the properties, and the second was creating a PDF file. That is, If we look now, let me be surprised, there it is. Is this PDF file being created? So, one job was updating the properties of the component. The second job was to create the PDF file. And those were the two jobs. They ran through, and so they are no longer in the list because they have been processed. The Joinserver is a special topic. It basically deals with the fact that if I want to implement ERP coupling with the game collaboration, then it often runs via a Joinserver, although we have the option of doing this via a so-called web service. That means that this is actually, if you like, the more modern possibility of linking systems with each other, to start queries from the ERP system, a query to our system, or we are finished with a design. The design is released and the parts list is then posted. This is not something that can be configured, I would say, but it can all be realized. However, this is not something the client does themselves, but something that is usually brought to us. Print server serves this purpose. I might have 20 drawings in a project. I want to mark them all, print them all. I don't have a print server running right now, but then I can assign that and say A4 and A3 go to the device. Larger than A3 go to the plotter. That can be set here. Now we come to the configurations and what is actually important. I have my different areas here, where if we go to ZW3D here now, I can say for my sake, which screen is taken automatically? What should happen when I check a file into ZW3D? Should it be automatically deleted from the workspace or closed? That can be set here. Should lock files be written? Yes, here I have more or less this configuration. When I create a PDF file, with what resolution should it be made? What type should it create now? Should it be created in color, monochrome or black and white or grayscale? That can be configured here. And, if we look at the neutral formats, then I have the possibility here to create different neutral formats. I'll go here as an example to the PDF file. And we see the PDF files here, for the drawing are processed via the job server. That is, a job is created. With the release, a job is created. Job server, please load the file, make a PDF file of it and file it accordingly. But I could just as well go here and say, no, not STL files. This is not 3D printing. I always want to make step files when checking in my parts. This means that when I check in a component in ZW3D, for example, a step file can always be generated automatically in the background, which my colleagues then need for any inquiries or quotations. That means that when the buyer makes inquiries, he always has a step file when I have checked in a component. And he has access to this step file, which doesn't always have to be requested separately, but is appended to the data format as a neutral file, just like this PDF file, and is then available to the colleagues accordingly. And so, we have the possibility of having different files created automatically. This is the neutral format creation. Okay, and now I'll briefly go into the properties, the property matching. And I can find it here. So for my different document types or applications for which we have interfaces, I have the possibility to say, I now have ZW3D. What is there? There is the assembly, there are the components, there is the drawing, CAM plans and so on. That is, I'm going to take a part as an example here, and then we have the possibility here to say, okay, we have, well, I did that initially, I think it was in the second part, when I created a component in ZW3D, I assigned a material to it, had the weight calculated there and then went and said, I'm checking in that part now. I connect the part. And here we see that when connecting, attributes, normal properties are taken from the ZW3D. These are just things that are available in the ZW3D anyway. They are taken and copied to my material entry in my document screen when you connect. And it's the same the other way round with other things. That is, the field prefix 1, prefix 2, display name, name 1, index, creator, and so on and so forth. If you then, I'll turn on the advanced mode. For the different version levels we can write the date, we can write the creator of the change, the revision, we can write the revision text and the revision number basically on different attributes in ZW3D. I'll move it over a bit, or rather, we can make it a bit narrower, it's not being used anyway. That means I see here. Like this. I have my various attributes here, they are in the database and I write them to the individual user attributes. That's why here custom properties to doc means to the file, to the CAD file, to the Word document, to the drawing, to whatever. And I do that through this so-called property matching. Of course, I have to know which field stands for what. What is a document number for? That is the index. What is a C prefix? I know in my screen what the things are called. The info if you scroll down further here. What does a name like 123 mean and so on? I get that info for example. So, the name of the component is written on my name1 field, and if I change anything, then I write it back to GC name1. So, this property matching, the client can also set it up themselves. This is how it looks in our standard solution, but it can also be extended. If you say that you have other fields that you want to manage, then I assign them to the document via the properties comparison. And this is how the whole thing looks. If I'm here in my data screen, and I'm here in the field, for example, I'll say edit, I'm in the field, then I have a selection screen here. With the F1 control, when I'm standing on the field, I see, okay, what is the name of this field? The user may not always know that. I have just here it says index. In our database it says master data document number 4. And I can get this information out as an administrator. Which field is called what? Go in here, press stop, go in here, press my field and say OK, that's the name 3 then at that point. Here it is also at the front, but here I know exactly which field value is this. OK. And then I also know what I have to set in the property comparison so that it ends up in the data record in the place where I need it. OK, that's the property match. I can also still show status. That is, here I basically have my status. My status is status administration. That is, when I say development here, for which document types is this the start status? Is it editable? Which symbol should be used? If somebody says I want to have drawings that are in progress not with this yellow ball but with something else, then I can go here and say I'm looking for another symbol. I want to have a grey ball or whatever or some other example image in that place that I can then assign to that. And I say here, for which document types is this the start status? That is, if I create a new AutoCAD drawing, for example, or a new ZW3D file, a new ZW3D part, then this is the start status. That means that when I connect a part, create a new one, it is always in progress by default. And that's how I define my various statuses here. Here it looks different in the revision, it is released. We find the symbol there, and we have also seen the red exclamation mark before. That's all in a nutshell. As I said, this is not meant to be a training session, but just to give an overview. Where can we change something? And I don't necessarily always need a programmer to do things for me. I don't necessarily always need the manufacturer of the software to generate another field somewhere in the screen. Here we are with screens and fields. I can do that myself as an administrator. If I say I want to edit the screens, then this is the document screen that I want to edit. I have my screen editor here, I have the various fields and I can say, okay, this field here is too long for me, I can shorten it. Then it's only 180 from the width. And yes, I would like to move that a bit or whatever. What content is there? There's the field, the database field, master data name 1, so the name 1 in my record or of my record. I'll change that again, or I want to add another field, or I have a special field here where I say the status is displayed, but not as text, but as an ID, an image, if you like. And these are exactly the IDs that we just had in the status that we saw in the status administration, that is, the yellow ball, the green tick. We see that here. This appears here because the field is stored here. I can integrate my company logo, load it as a resource once into the Gain collaboration and then include it here in my screen. If I want to have new fields, then I can say so. I want a new auto data box. I place it here, move it there. I can also copy an existing one. Then I go here and say, which field would you like to have there? I want to retrieve this or that from my database here. Then I have that in there and I can make it relatively simple. Okay, I'll take that away again because so okay. These are the different tabs we have already seen. If we now look in here and see that the documents are material, we have seen that it is filled via my ZW3D material. For the weight, the ZW3D weight is also written to the data set when it is connected to the database field documents weight and is then found here again in the screen. And as I said, everyone is actually able to set things themselves after training. And it's the same here. Now it goes one step further, where I can go here and say I want to see the documents in my results list. That is, when I say show me the documents, there are various columns up here and here. I can then set which ones I want to see. You see, of all these hundreds of database fields, I don't show all of them, but only a few. And then they show up in the list if I want them to. And when I have expanded them, I don't save. Then I have the possibility here to display certain things as well. For example, the weight of the component will now appear. I will then move it to there. If it suits me better there, then I'll put it in there. And so I can configure my things myself. Okay. Last but not least, I might show you how I, as an administrator, can also create what we call filters. I go here to ZW3D. Then everything appears here with ZW3D. Components, drawings and so on and so forth. If I now go to the drawing here, I get, this is a direct filter. If I click here once, it's a direct filter. That means I click on it, and it immediately shows me all the results. I don't have to click on search first. After a certain number of files, that no longer makes sense. That is, if I have 60,000 records, click here, and it lists them all first, then of course it takes a moment longer than it does now at 190. A direct filter, you have to consider it carefully. Do I need it? Do I not need it? But if I click on it, then I don't have to search first, but click on it, bang, the result is delivered to me. So, I want to see drawings, but I only want to see approved drawings. Then that means I can go here and say oh no, show released. Like this. And then I only get released drawings in the results list. That's no longer 190, but only 72. And I want to save this filter as it is here now. I call it only released drawings. Like this, make check marks on it, green check marks as direct filters. Everyone can see that. That means I can also set it here and save it. Then only released drawings appears here under private. This now applies to me as the administrator user. Everyone can set this for themselves. If someone says that I always need the search, I always want to search by year, so be it. And some term or some beginning of a document number or whatever, then he can create this filter himself, has it here under private, he can click on it and always finds his results. If I do the whole thing as an administrator, then I can go here and say so. I'll take this filter. I'll take this filter and move it up here once. Like this. I actually wanted it there. That's where I wanted it. There. I've added this to my list. Now everyone has it. I can also go here and say, I have a certain user, the colleagues from purchasing or from sales, from production, whatever. They don't see all the other filters. They only have the button only released drawings, they can only click on it, so they don't get the possibility to display wrong or old or outdated drawings or drawings that are in revision, but they have this filter here, and they only get released drawings displayed. I'm going to close the whole thing. Starting again now as a different user. I'm logging in again as Tonak. Then it's in there. I click on it and only shared drawings are displayed. And with that, I often have many sources of error with one or the other customer who doesn't pay close attention, who simply searches for something because he knows, oh, there was a mounting plate. And when he looks for it, he only finds the released mounting plate. If he goes up here and says, mounting plate, then he finds the drawing, then he finds the component. But then he also finds the old drawing and the old component, which is no longer valid. And could that be called up like that? And as I said, you can configure filters for that. Is everybody able to do it themselves? But is the administrator in your house also able to do it? And yes, it works very simply. So, we see that as a normal user, I no longer have so many rights and can only do certain things. I can use the messaging system. I can look at the help. That is also quite helpful. For example, I can also display log files via the service. This means that if something doesn't work as it should, I can say, okay, please open the directory with the log files, and then there is information in there that I can perhaps use. We are supporters in any case. The customer doesn't necessarily know. Sometimes yes, sometimes no. Then it says here, okay, you have opened a file with such and such a value. The information is in there. When setting some attributes, something is done. And if something were to get stuck somewhere or the dataset was not matched correctly or something, then we would have the possibility to look into it and then find the error better or faster. But as I said, as an administrator, I can do a lot more than a normal user. That's how it should be, and that's how it usually is. I'm reporting here now. I'll log in here now and set a check mark. But normally, of course, the administrator has a password that not every user knows. And normally, I can't click on it here either. If the administrator has a password, then I also have to enter it here. Usually, it's like this: I'm a Windows user, Tonak, because of me, I put the tick here, stay logged in, and then I'll log in automatically, and then it whizzes through there. And yes, I don't have the possibility to select anything else at that point. Yes, okay, that's it for the fourth part. I hope I've given you a good overview of the game collaboration in connection with ZW3D with these 4 videos. I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you got a good insight. Have fun and hope to see you again in the next video.